Hi students, welcome back. So this is the last part of the chapter, and in this part we are going to study about the secularism in India and the secularism in US. So basically we are going to study about the differences and the similarities. Alright, moving forward. Okay, so there is a table which shows the similarity and the differences of secularism in India and secularism in USA. So starting with the similarity, so basically the similarity is that both USA and India allows the citizens of the country to follow any religion, promote any religion that they wish to. So every citizen of the country USA and India are allowed to promote and profess and propagate any religion that they wish to. So basically, in short, that the citizens of India and citizens of the US have the right to follow any religion that they wish to. So what is the difference when they have the right to follow their religion? The basic difference over here is that since we studied the three strategies that the Indian Constitution, the government of India follows in order to ensure that India is a secular state, and one of them, if you remember, was strategy of intervention, wherein the government basically intervenes in the religious communities when they feel like there is a violation of fundamental rights of one of the religious communities or of some members of the same religious communities. If they feel like the members of the same religious communities are dominating the members of their religious community only, so in that case the government intervenes. Like we understood the example of where the government had intervened in the case where there was practice of untouchability, right? So in that case, basically there was upper caste and lower caste, and the people who belong to the upper caste usually used to practice this untouchability, that they used to not give equal rights to the people of lower caste. So this was basically the practice of untouchability which used to happen between the members of the same religious communities, under which the government of India had to intervene, since it was a discrimination between the members. This was an ill treatment towards the members of the same religious community, and so the government had to intervene and ban that practice. So in India, the government is allowed to make such interventions when they feel like the fundamental rights of some people are being violated. But in US, there is no such intervention. There is a non-interference. There is strict non-interference in US. That is, there is a strict separation of religion and state. Neither the religious communities interfere in the state, nor the state strictly interfere in the religious communities. There is no link. They both are the two separate entities, and there is a strict separation. There is no such interference also in case where there is violation of the fundamental rights. Even then, there is no such intervention. There is strict separation between religion and state. So basically these are the similarities and the differences. So moving forward with an example, so basically in February 2004, France passed a law banning the students from wearing any religious or political signs. Basically, we see that Muslims wear a headscarf, and Christians wear a Christian cross in their neck. So basically in India, where you can see that if there is a set of class where there are Muslims and there are Hindus, you can notice that sometimes the Hindu students are wearing moli in their hands or tika on their foreheads, and sometimes the Muslims have the Muslim girls wear the headscarf on their heads. So this is allowed in India. The Sikhs, sometimes you could see that they wear turban on their head. So basically all this is allowed in India. The government does not interfere in the religious practices of the religious communities until and unless it is violating someone's fundamental rights. I hope you understand, when the government intervenes, it only intervenes when it sees that someone's fundamental rights are being violated, that there is a discrimination or ill treatment towards someone. So only then the government of India intervenes. But what happened in France was that in 2004, France passed a law that the students won't be allowed to wear headscarf, or the Jewish wouldn't be allowed to wear the skull cap, or the Christians won't be allowed to wear the Christian crosses that they were wearing that time. So they weren't allowed to do that. So basically they were not being allowed to practice their religious practices. They were not being allowed to follow their religious practices. So This kind of rule was basically passed in France in 2004, and there is a question beneath this that says that does the Indian Constitution allow such a law to be passed? Basically, the Constitution of India, the government of India, is very rigid as well as it is flexible. So it becomes flexible, and when it is supposed to be, it intervenes when it is supposed to be, and it is flexible when it is supposed to be. When it realizes, when it sees that nobody's fundamental rights are being violated and everybody is equally treated, then it does not intervene. It intervenes only when it notices that someone is being discriminated or someone is being ill-treated. Only then. So here in this case, if a student is practicing applying moli in his hand or tika on his forehead, so this is basically not violating somebody's other fundamental rights, or it is not a discrimination between the other religious community and that Hindu student. So there is no such violation of fundamental rights happening over here. This is just a promotion of their religious practices. This is just them practicing or promoting their religious practices. So in this case, I don't think the Indian Constitution allows such a law to be passed, since there is no violation of fundamental rights, and it's just everybody following their own religious practices. All right. Let's start the queue of questions. The very first question says that can the government intervene if some religious group says that their religion allows them to practice female infanticide? Why do you think so? Definitely the government can intervene if some religious group says that their religion allows them to practice female infanticide. The government can definitely intervene and can prohibit female infanticide. As we discussed earlier, that the government intervened in a similar case when there was a practice of untouchability, and they intervened and prohibited untouchability, just because the practice of untouchability used to basically, it used to cause a discrimination among the upper caste and the lower caste. It basically bifurcated two kinds of people, that this is upper caste and they are gonna get more rights, whereas these are the lower caste and they are gonna get less rights, and they are gonna be ill-treated, they are gonna be named as the lower caste, they are gonna get lesser rights and lesser privileges. So this basically, the practice of untouchability led to a lot of discrimination among the different people in the society, and that led to a lot of chaos and hinder of their interest, right? So basically they were being dominated, their interests were being hindered. This was basically an ill treatment that was going on in the country, which led to the violation of the fundamental rights of the lower caste, the people which were were called as lower caste. It was the violation of their fundamental rights, and so the government intervened in order to ban the practice of untouchability. And so is female infanticide. Female infanticide is also an illegal practice wherein there is a discrimination between a boy and a girl, and that is why female infanticide is basically when the baby is killed inside the womb of the mother, and that is especially baby girls. So in case there is a baby girl in the womb of the female body, so that baby would be killed just because that's a girl. So here there is a direct discrimination between a boy and a girl, and so that is illegal, and that is why the government can definitely intervene and prohibit such act, right, in the country. I hope you understood. Moving on to the next question. List the different types of religious practice that you find in your neighborhood. This could be different form of prayer, worship, or different gods, sacred sites, different kinds of religious music, and singing. Does this indicate freedom of religious practice? Yeah, so this is a very simple question, and I will give you a very simple answer to this question. That is, I live in a society where I live amongst people who belong to Hindu religion, they belong to Sikh religion, they also belong to Muslim religion. My neighbor themselves, they are Muslims. So we all know that India has a diverse set of cultures, and we cannot live in amongst only one set of culture, one set of religious community. There could be people who belong to different religious communities, and so we could see that if there is a society and there are Sikhs in the society, there are Muslims in the societies and Hindus in a society. So let's assume that there is a festival of Lodi, right? So Sikh, basically it's a festival of Sikhs and Punjabis, so they celebrate Lodi. So if in case in the society there is a celebration of Lodi, which is a festival of Sikh, they will celebrate it and nobody will question them, nobody will stop them. Even there will be Muslims in the society, there will be Hindus in the society, but everybody will accept their religious practice, their culture, and nobody will stop them. All right. And similarly, if there is Eid, so the Muslims will celebrate Eid. If there is Janmashtami, so that is a festival of Hinduism. So if in case Hindus are celebrating Janmashtami in the society, the Sikhs will not ask them to not celebrate it, right? So this basically indicates that there is a religious freedom amongst all the citizens of the country. Neither the government can intervene in this case, and nor the people of the society, the citizens of the country can intervene. So here it indicates that everybody has the right to follow and promote and support any religion that they want to, and they can follow all the religious practices of their religious community until and unless it does not violate the fundamental rights, or it does not happen at the expense of the other religious community. What do I mean by happen at the expense? Means it does not ill-treat somebody else, or it does not discriminate somebody else. Until and unless it does not violate the fundamental rules of the others, it is totally fine, and the government allows everybody to follow any religion, propagate, profess any religion that they want to. So it was a very simple question. Moving on. All right. So look up at the annual calendar of holidays of your school. How many of them pertain to different religions, and what does this indicate? Alright, so just pause this video for a minute and look at the holidays that you get in a year. Basically the holidays of the festivals that you get apart from the autumn break and the summer break. And you will find that around 80 holidays, you get around 80 holidays for the different festivals. And that festival does not belong to only one religious community. Basically it belongs to different religious communities, different religions. It includes festivals of Hindus, festivals of Christians, festivals of Muslims, festivals of Sikh. How do I say that it includes the festivals of all these religions? So basically you get holidays for Diwalis, you also get holidays for Christmas, which is the festival of Christians. You also get holiday for Eid, which is a festival of Muslims. You also get holiday for Lodi, which is a festival of Sikh. You also get holiday for Pongal, which is a festival of South Indians. So here it directly indicates that there is no discrimination among the different religious communities. Every religion is respected equally, is given equal rights by the state, by the government of India. No religion is discriminated. No religion is separately, supported and promoted by the government. If in case they're giving holiday on a Janmashtami or on a Diwali, they will definitely give a holiday on Eid. There is no such discrimination, and this totally indicates that all the religious communities and all the religions are equally supported, and they are given equal rights in the society. All right, moving forward, find out some examples of the different views within the same religion. So I would explain this statement, I would give examples which will easily make you understand how there could be different views in the same religious community. Alright, so let's take an example of the Hindu community. We all know that there are not one type of Hindu, there are many types of Hindu. There could be Baniyas, there could be Punjabis, and both of the two although belongs to the same Hindu religion, but still their traditions, their cultures, their beliefs are yet so different from each other, and that makes it so evident that there could be different views of the members who belong to the same religious community in respect to their beliefs and their traditions, and how different their cultures could be. So this is quite evident how there could be different views of the same religious community, right? Moving forward to the next question that says, the Indian state both keeps away from religion as well as intervenes in religion. This idea can be quite confusing. Discuss this once again in class using examples from the chapter as well as those you might have come up with. Yeah. So as I told you that there were 3 strategies that the government takes up in order to ensure that India is a secular state, that secularism is practiced in the country. One of the strategies over here was a strategy of non-interference, and one of them was a strategy of intervention. Basically both of them are quite hypothetical that one time we are saying that we are intervening, there is a strategy of non-interference wherein we are practicing secularism by non-interfering in the people's religious communities, and other strategies just saying the opposite of the previous one, that we are ensuring that the state is secular by the practice of intervention in the religious community. So how could be they so different yet practice the yet ensure the same thing, that is secularism? So as I have been saying in this lecture that the Indian government, the government of India, intervenes in the religious communities only when it thinks that there is a violation of fundamental rights of the members of some religious communities or of the members of the same religious community. So basically, the government of India is very flexible, right? The state is very flexible. The constitution does not intervene in the matters where there is no violation of the fundamental rights. They just intervenes only when they see that there is a violation of the fundamental right. One of the religious communities, let's assume that the minority ones that are in India, the Muslims, are being dominated by the Hindus, or they are being ill-treated by the Hindus, only then they would intervene in the religious communities. Otherwise they wouldn't. So let's just again understand this through a simple example, that is the practice of untouchability, that I have been saying it again and again, that in case there is something going on like the practice of untouchability, then obviously the government will intervene, because that practice will lead to a lot of discrimination, ill treatment towards the members of the same religious community, and could happen in the it could also lead to discrimination between the other religious communities also. That practice was basically leading to a lot of discrimination and ill treatment in the society. So that is why the government intervened, because there was a violation of the fundamental rights. Not every religious community was getting equal rights, and not all the members of the same religious community was getting equal rights. So the government had to ensure that each and every religion and each and every member of the same religious community gets equal rights and gets the right to follow their religion, gets the right to promote their religion, and gets equal rights. All right, so there this practice of untouchability was basically stopping the people from getting equal rights, and that is why it had to intervene, right? But let's take another example, that is wearing a turban. So Sikh, basically we all know that in the culture of Sikh, they usually wear a turban on their head, and so this is a practice which is not violating anybody's fundamental right. So the Sikhs are basically just following their culture, just practicing their own religious practices. They're not harming somebody else, right? They're not harming the other religious communities. They're not dominating the other religious communities. They're not discriminating them. They're not ill-treating them. So this is a religious practice which they're just following in order to promote their own culture, right? In order to promote propagate their own culture. They're not harming anybody else. They're not harming any other religious community. So in this case, the government does not interfere, does not ask the Sikh community to not wear turban, since it's not violating the fundamental rights, since it's not creating a chaos in the country, since it's not hampering somebody else's interest and rights. So the government does not interfere in the cases where people are not hampering others' fundamental rights and interests, but it interferes and intervenes in the cases where there are practices such as untouchability or the female infanticide, where they could see that there is a discrimination that is happening, where they could see that there is a ill treatment that is happening in the society. So in these cases, they could intervene. So these two statements, the strategy of the non-intervention and the strategy of the non-interference and strategy of intervention, looks very different, but they both works in the favor of secularism. So I hope that you understood how they both are very opposite, but works towards the same measure to ensure that the state is a secular state. So I hope you understood this through this very simple example that I have been repeating in the entire video. And so this brings us to the end of the questions. Now let's move on to the quick revision, that whatever we have learned in this video, we'll just do a very quick revision of all of it. All right. Alright, so secularism refers to the separation of the religion from the state, keeping in mind the idea of the religious freedom for all. That means that in secularism, the state does not promote only one particular religion. All the religious communities are equal for the state. Also, it is important because it prohibits for any one particular religion to come in power and dominate the minority religious communities or the other religious communities of the country. And it also safeguards the fundamental right of the citizens of the country, that is the right to follow any religion, promote, propagate any religion that they want to. Moving forward. We all know that the government of India uses 3 strategies in order to ensure that India is a secular state. The first one is distancing itself from the religion, the second is non-interference, and the third is intervention. And I hope that you have understood all the 3 strategies thoroughly. Alright. The US Constitution also prohibits the legislature from making laws respecting an establishment of the religion, or that does not prohibit the free exercise of the religion. That the US Constitution as well as the Indian Constitution, both the countries does not promote any one particular religion. All the religious communities are equal for the state. Also, it gives equal rights to all the religious communities. It actually allows the people to profess any religion that they want to, safeguarding their fundamental right to follow any religion. The third point is that the Indian Constitution, there is a strict separation of religion and state with no intervention, whereas intervention is allowed in India in certain cases. Alright, understanding this topic once again for the last time. So in the US, there is a strict separation of the religion and the state. That means that neither the state interferes in the religious communities nor the religious communities interfere in the state. There is a very, very strict separation of the religion and the state. They wouldn't interfere in each other's work, even though there is a violation of the fundamental right, unlike in the Indian Constitution and the government of India, wherein the government actually interferes in case they find that there is a violation of the fundamental right, according to the strategy of intervention. So that's it for the chapter, and this brings us to the end of the chapter. We'll connect to the next video. By then, thank you so much for joining me on Study Room.